rains come for drought. Let's sell these cows so that then we can create a revolving fund so that at the time when the rains come, we can go back and restock the cattle. And I think it's also important to teach this issue of insurance because largely there is no communication on it. Yet, there are very many organizations that are involved in this insurance for livestock. And I think we must push that agenda and I'll be at the forefront of ensuring that it is there. But more than the insurance is also to make sure that the insurance premiums are affordable. So there is no point of saying there is livestock insurance, but the insurance is too high. People can't afford it. So we have got to go back and ask ourselves, how do we make sure that there is so much livestock, there are so many cows that are being insured, that in terms of the insurance premiums, they can come down. Because insurance works on the basis of probability. The probability that something bad is going to happen diminishes as long as the base itself is becoming, has been widened. So there's a lot to do, I agree. I cannot profess to be an expert sitting here, but I think there is the will, and I intend to work on it. Mr. Chairman, you'll allow me to also talk about the environment, because it has also been raised by Honorable Gikaria, the issue of the environment and farming. Mr. Chairman, as we said, there is an issue on this climate change that is right in front of us, and that is the issue to do with the European Union deforestation regulation, where the European Union is coming out with the rules that say that if we are deforesting to plant crops or to farm, we will not be able to export our commodities, animals, and products to the European Union. Now, this is something that we can't afford because that is our biggest market for virtually most of our agricultural products. So, it is not just because they are asking us to do it. And Mr. Chairman, I like to say that in terms of what the Europeans have set as a standard of climate change or climate specifications that they want to set, in my opinion, Kenya is actually ahead of it. Because, Mr. Chairman, not only are we not cutting forests in order to plant things like coffee, for example, in the coffee sector, we are actually planting trees in the coffee farms. We are planting grevillea trees that grow in tandem with the coffee. In any event, coffee is a tree itself. So when it comes to the issue of planting, being the EUDR regulations, I think we are going to meet I suppose the deadline is this year, but I think we are going to discuss with them and meet that their demand. But more importantly, Mr. Chairman, is that agroforestry is also agriculture. And
his question was, the farmer used to know that you planned at the end of February, the rains will be there 1st March. Now it's not the case. How are you going to keep information flow to the farmer on the changing patterns of weather?
I'll get there, Mr. Chairman.
That's what he asked, and
I'll get there, Mr. Chairman, but I did want to raise this issue of EUDR because it is part and parcel of this thing of climate change. And Mr. Chairman, technology is going to assist us. The biggest thing in terms of Mr. Honorable Gikaria's question is technology. We all know that these days the meteorological department can actually predict very well. If you look at your mobile app and look at it, we can predict very well. There was a time when we talk about Rasha, Pale na Pale, which was never going to happen. But I think that we are very confident. And as AI develops, the predictability and our ability to tell the weather is going to become more and more precise. And at that point, what then do we do? Because information is one thing, but what do you do when you do it? We need drought-resistant crops, drought-resistant animals that can withstand higher heat and longer and higher temperatures that currently exist. This is a scientific issue, and we are going to work with the research organizations to make sure that at least we mitigate part of what can be very severe natural disasters.
Thank you. Yes, Janet.
Chairman, I know the nominee was once a politician, but he has cleverly evaded the issue of the vaccine. And we know each other why he's doing that.
Mr. Chairman, it is indeed. And say, this is a vaccine. It is being made by Kevafapi, who are our own people. It is for this and this purpose. We only vaccinate about 10% of our livestock. We want to vaccinate more than that. But the point of the matter is this. The cow, as I said earlier, belongs to an individual. It doesn't belong to the government. The gift belongs to an individual, not to the government. So the matter is simple. Here is a vaccine. It is for foot and mouth disease. You have a goat. Do you want the goat to be vaccinated? You say, yes, I want to be vaccinated. We vaccinate. You say, no, I don't want my goat to be vaccinated. Sawa. Do you have a cow? Do you want the cow to be vaccinated? This is the reason why it is to be vaccinated. You say, yes, we vaccinate. You say, no, we don't vaccinate. Allah?
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mission. The communication aspect of it is huge. The communication aspect of this is very big. And I'm going to use the experts. I'm going to use the experts in Kevavapi. I'm going to use the experts who understand this very well to be actually the lead communicators, just like we did with COVID, where we had the doctors themselves explain the issue. We also want to use the veterinary officers to themselves explain what we are trying to do. So you can be sure, Honorable Member, that I am going to put a very robust communication system on this matter house to create more civility. And I can tell you that we will be as vigilant as we can be to ensure that we protect our farmers as well as our private sector players. In terms of the taxation regime, because I think, Honorable Member, that's what you are referring to. Yeah, the regulations and the many things that you have to pay. You have to pay for research, you have to pay for transport, you have to pay just to be able to export. You have to be able to, every single document has got a tax on it. You know, this is something that we need to look at, because by the end of the day, it would be better to create a bigger volume of business people and tax them a little than to have just a few business people, which you tax a lot. Because the bigger volume of business people create jobs, you know, the less ones don't. So I'll be fighting, you know, for that position to change. You know, I'll do whatever I can within the Ministry of Agriculture. But of course, this is something I have to work with my colleagues, you know, in other. On the issue of oil crops and farming of palm oil and other nuts, so on, particularly in the coast, yes, I completely agree that this is something that we have missed an opportunity here, because we are only producing about 10% of these oils. Yes, we use them every day. So we are using foreign exchange unnecessarily when we can actually grow palm oil. We have seen countries that have changed completely. Uganda next door is growing a lot of their oils now. So there is no reason why we can't do it. But I also know that we have got to work with the extension farmers that Mheshimiwa Wanyonyi also referred to. We have got to have educated extension farmers to change some of the cultural norms that our people have against or for farming certain goods. For example, I know for a fact that AFA has produced a huge quantity of coconut seedlings that they are trying to distribute. And therefore, there is an education and extension work that is required there to go and tell the people, we have got this, but it's not enough that you go to a farm and tell them you have got coconut seedlings. How do you plant them? Where do you plant them? What sort of fertilizer do you use? Is it organic fertilizer? Is it, mineral fertilizer? So there is quite a bit to be done so that we stop blaming the people and take responsibility ourselves to grow. On the issue of GMO, again, I repeat what I said. But we must also ask ourselves, what is GMO? You know, this genetic modified organism, what is the mischief that this organism, this genetic change is supposed to have done? And there are two sides to this. There is a positive side and there is a negative side. And one of the first things that we must do is ensure that the National Biosafety Authority is sufficiently funded, is sufficiently prepared to deal with GMOs. You cannot deal with GMOs in your country until you have got the institutional framework to make sure that the regulatory framework is there, to make sure that the rules and regulations to deal with those products and services are there, so that we are clear that if a GMO product comes, it will be to the benefit of our nation. And there are some benefits to some of the products. For example, if you look at the cotton growing areas, and you look at BT, and what has happened because of the absence of the warm parliament. We were talking about this definition, donor. Donor is not actually a real donor, as we understand it in the English language. It's a loan. It's actually a bank loan, which is disguised as a donor. So let's make sure that we are talking the right things. These people who come to do the projects in all the areas in agriculture, this is money that will eventually be paid by Kenyans. So we must not take donor-driven ideas. It is our ideas that we should be discussing with the donors. And in the course of that discussion, we must discuss the question of sustainability. What happens when this program is over? Part of the donor fund must be that sustainable aspect, the training of the farmers themselves, the training of the extension people themselves, so that when they are leaving a complete project that is ongoing. And to your question regarding research organizations such as CARO and the others, I think a lot of our research organizations have also been misused. Misused to the extent that we are working with international organizations. They are using our scientists to carry out this research. And what we find and the discoveries that we make a patent out there by others who then bring the results of the research here for us to buy. I think that it is important for us to put a legal framework within our research organization. And I can tell you this is something I tried to introduce at Kemri, because the same thing was happening with the researchers for health. I think it is also time for us to ensure that the researchers for vet medicines and vet services are also part of that understanding. Yes, we need to work with international organizations, because essentially research is international in its nature. But we must make sure that what we get here and our findings here remain ours. That data, when you see an organization coming to say they want to work with you in research, what they are looking for is data. We must make sure that that data belongs to us and people can buy from us, not us use our nation, use our scientists to then buy from them. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me start with the issue of fertilizer. First of all, I want to say that let me start with Mr. Dawood's question on the issue of the Sputnik. I remember distinctly the issue of Sputnik vaccine that came from Russia. And I can tell you, Honorable Member, through the chair, that there was not a single vaccine that we allowed into Kenya that was not approved, and there was not a single vaccine that we refused to take that was approved. Now, the issue here is who approves it. And our rule within the National Emergency Response Committee on coronavirus, and following the advice that we also got, is that we did not use any vaccines that were not WHO, World Health Organization approved. And I'm aware that at the time that we had stored with Sputnik, the condition that we give Sputnik is, and the Russian people even came to see us, not even the business people, is to say, please deal with the World Health Organization approval. And as soon as you have got those approvals, we have no problem using the vaccine. Because you can imagine what we'd have to deal with. with vaccines coming from very many different parts of the world. The only thing that we could do and guarantee the safety of our people was to use the World Health Organization as a major approval organization for us. And at that time, I can vote. Mr. Chairman.
Did you play politics with the health of Kenyans?
Mr. Chairman, I want to repeat that the only approvals that we recognize as the National Executive Committee on Coronavirus was approvals that came from the World Health Organization.
Including our then Deputy President getting a jab of that vaccine.
Mr. Chairman, all I can say is that whether a vaccine has arrived in the country or not, no matter how it has arrived in the country or not, if it has not been approved by the World Health Organization, we cannot use it, and we did not use it. I think I rest my case.
So are you telling us that by the time it arrived and it was administered to 230,000 people, it had not yet received approval from World Health Organization?
Absolutely not. And I think, Mr. Speaker, I do not recall the actual figures that it had been administered to. I cannot remember now what figure, but I don't think it was anywhere near, the kind of figure that you had said. Suffice it to say, Mr. Chairman, that the decision that was made at the time by the National Emergency Response Committee and the Ministry of Health was that we would not and we would not in the future use any vaccine that had not been internationally approved by the World Health Organization.
And you are the chairman of that committee.
And I was the chairman.
Yes.
And I take responsibility. And we agreed, Mr. Chairman, even at that point, as I remember, we agreed that if the vaccine could get World Health Organization approval, we would use it. Mr. Chairman, I cannot recall the events as they followed, if indeed that is the way they followed, but I repeat my position. We could only use a vaccine approved by the World Health Organization.
Go on with the others. I'm sure you know.
Mr. Chairman, the issue of mitigating circumstances, I think that were raised by Mishi, the issue of what do we do when there are droughts and then there is flooding that happens. I'll come back to the others as well. I agree with her that, Honorable Chairman, that the issue of drought mitigation is critical, and it has been there a long time. We all know about Budalangi, and we know other areas in the coast, and season after season, the discussion is the same. And what I would like to commit myself to, Mr. Chairman, is working with the ministries involved. As you are aware, the Ministry of Irrigation, the Ministry of Water is charged with the dam, the areas of matters to do with the damming. But I also want to involve the county governments in this matter, because the issue of acceptability, for example, the involvement of the county governments with the extension farmers, because in Schedule 4, extension farmers that Honorable Emase raised, extension farmers are actually the job of the county government. My job is to ensure that we fight this fight in terms of training, in terms of budgeting and funding, so that we have got these people. And I would like to refer to the matter that you referred, which you said that this house is the one that allocates budgets, and to say that in spite of that, we can also predicate some of these things on what Honorable Naisura had raised on the issue of donors. This is one of the areas that we could try very hard to work with our funders and with our donors in terms of the extension farmers, so that in mitigating the issues that have been raised, the conditions and challenges that Honorable Michi has raised, ensuring that we have got the proper crops to use during drought, ensuring that we have got the correct livestock to use, ensuring that diseases don't start affecting our livestock just because there was flooding, going on. I think that is a job that will ably be done by extension extension people. I think they are as crucial as Mheshimiwa Wanyonyi had raised. And I'm going to work very hard with the county governments to ensure that extension farmers, but also working concurrently with the ministries involved in dam building, such as Ministry of Water and Irrigation. And I think that, Mr. Chairman, the other involvement is also the committees of parliament. The committees of parliament on agriculture, the committees of parliament on health, on water and cooperatives. I think sometimes it is also good for us to have discussions together with them. And I propose to also engage them so that we can discuss budgeting and budget allocations also here, together obviously with the budget committee. Mr. Chairman, yes, the Honorable Mishi spoke about the aspect of job creation in agriculture. And I think that sometimes we also miss opportunities of job creation in agriculture. For example, we are talking about fertilizer subsidies. And we have got companies in this country that can actually make fertilizers away from the coast. There are some companies in the coast. And it is true that if we structure the subsidies properly, it is possible that these companies that make fertilizers can be funded or can be part of the subsidy movement so that they too can create jobs. I think whatever we do at whatever time we do it, we need to ensure that any opportunity to create a job is not lost, because part of the challenge we are having with our youth is actually that job, the aspect of job creation. And I think I alluded to the issue of disease, disease management. Again, research on these issues is going to assist us a lot on disease management. But I think that it is better to use preventive measures, ensuring that the diseases don't occur in the first place, rather than curative measures that we have got to deal with after the event has taken place. On the issue of sugar and the sugar bill, yes, I'm aware that the sugar bill has gone through, and I'm also aware that we produced this year, a large quantity, in perhaps the highest quantity, a large quantity of sugar, which actually might save us from importing sugar this year. And I think that is a fantastic development, but it must not be at the cost of the farmer. It cannot be at the cost of the farmer, because I think we should understand that the subsidy to the farmer is not a subsidy to the farmer per se. It is only a subsidy to the farmer directly. It is indirectly a subsidy to the consumer, because it is the
Sugar Act nominee is awaiting if you are approved to promulgate the regulations.
I'm aware of that, Mr. Chairman.
That you are now delving into.
Yes, I'm aware of that, Mr. Chairman. Yes. And that's what I alluded to. And I think that the regulations will be done in the fastest possible time. Mr. Chairman, on the issue of PPP, I'll come back to Mira. On the issue of PPP, Mr. Chairman, usually the problem is not the private players in the game. Usually, the problem in trying to craft a private-public partnership, in my opinion, the fault lies with the public sector, not the private sector. The private sector has got a number of things that they normally demand if they are going to put their money anywhere. One of them is very quick decisions. They want us to make this decision about the investment quickly. In the past, I think we should own up as government that we have created so much bureaucracy around the issue of PPP that a person starting the PPP process usually at some point just gives up and goes. I think that one of the entry points for us is to reduce the bureaucracy as much as we can, particularly in the agricultural sector. There are people who express interests to come and lease land and grow, say, for example, rice. All right, and we put roadblocks to them, and we put so many conditions to them that eventually, by the end of the day, they say, if I go to Rwanda, I'll get free land and start this job tomorrow. And they leave. So we are losing a lot of investments, because of our own bureaucracy and the conditionalities that we are using, that we are putting on the private sector people. Conditions that sometimes are official conditions, and conditions sometimes which are suspect. So I agree with you that we must fight more, we must reduce our bureaucracy, and we must be more willing. It should be an objective to bring the people in. It should be our objective to fight for investments to come in, not to put roadblocks for the investors. On the issue of the cartels, as Honorable Wood raised, and what you are referring to, I think, Honorable Member, is a criminal issue. It's not a policy issue. You are referring to a criminal activity that is clearly going on someplace. You said at the airport, that is clearly going on at JKIA. And I think this is the only thing we can, you and I, is to bring this thing to the attention of investigators. I will do my part in terms of prosecuting that issue and ensuring that through AFA, through the organizations that are in the Ministry of Agriculture, I will ensure and fight to make sure that we unravel any of those practices that might be going on. But clearly, Mr. Chairman, what we are discussing here is a criminal activity and a criminal gang that is operating at JKIA, and it should be referred, in fact, to the police and investigating arms of the government. And I can tell you that that is not something that we are going to just stand by and watch the Mira farmers, get punished for nothing. Look, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the Honorable Junet that part of the problem, obviously, in the sugar industry, I'm speaking very quickly on these issues, because as you can see, the time aspect.
Your time is up, actually.
Yes, absolutely. I want to say, Mr. Chairman, that the issue that we want to address, and it is good that the Chairman has pointed out that the bill, is just waiting for the aggression. Increasing efficiency of production is part of the solutions that Honorable Emase was raising. Because if you increase efficiency and you reduce the cost of production, then automatically that wastage that was happening within that structure would go to the farmer. It goes without saying. And it is clear, anybody who has been following that sugar sector issue is clear. With the kind of debt write-offs that we have done as a government, it means that you can reduce that burden a little bit. If we then get licensees, these people who want to work with, who want to partner, the lessees who want to work with the sugar sector, whether it is, especially the government-owned mills, if they want to come to us and the farmers are in agreement and the caucus within this parliament is in agreement that that's the way to go in order for us to create efficiency in the sugar sector, by all means, that's what we should do. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want first to start with admitting that the pyrethrum sector that Honorable Mokami referred to is in a mess. To put it any other way, would be to do the proverbial ostrich, thing and bury my head to the ground. And the only thing I can say is, broadly speaking, it is an area I intend to sit with the industry itself, the entire industry, and unravel whatever has been bedeviling it since almost independence. Since the Americans got out, who are buying this pyrethrum of ours, we have never quite recovered in the pyrethrum sector. And all I can say is that I will need time to sit with them so that we can resolve whatever issues exist with them. I do not have the silver bullet with me right now. The second thing is on the issue of dairy farmers. I think I spoke at length about the industry to the extent, and I think it's the Honorable Junet who raised it, that I have to work with the marketing agencies, particularly the cooperative ministry, in order for us to streamline. But for me, there are a couple of things that we can do anyway in agriculture. The first thing is that I said, and to begin with, and perhaps that is what I'll eventually end with, that we have to put money in the farmer's pocket. If, for example, and I'm referring to coffee because you have raised it, not because, and I grew up there, so I know a little bit more about it. Coffee, for instance, was biggest challenge has always been the gap between the farmer and the market. The fact that you grow coffee and give it to somebody, You have no idea how much you have sold it at. You have no idea who is going to process it. You have no idea where it is going. And sometime in the future you expect to be paid. There is no such business case that can exist anywhere, whether in farming or in any other areas. And I think that closing that gap, and I hope that the coffee bill also being proposed, is that closing the gap between whether it's in sugar knows a little bit about the market. And I'm glad, Mr. Chairman, because another current And I'm glad, Mr. Chairman, because another current structure, at least my understanding as I speak today, is that we are approving that structure so that the cooperatives themselves can also form part of the marketing team. Private sector does that. If you go and see Sasini tea or Sasini milk, Sasini coffee, in the supermarkets is actually processed by the grower of Sasini. So it is something that we must face in order for it. But the other thing is the productivity per acre. You know, the aspect of the quality, the quantity of produce. Again, even if you look at both coffee and tea sector, if you look at the sugar sector, what you'll find is that the private sector players can produce a ton within, within 1 metric ton can come. They have got a ratio of 10 to 1 for the private sector and 15 to 1 for the government sector, which informs also what Honorable Junet was talking about. So I think that that linkage between efficiency, private sector, the buyers, and the farmer is the solution to our problem. His cow or to protect his herd at all, if the alternative is that the herd is going to die. What has been missing is a communication and engagement with that person so that they understand exactly what the stakes are and that choices. So we will never be able to be disease-free at 10%. If we increase that figure over a period of about 3 to 4 years, say. So my intention is not, as it were, to say that I have given people a choice and then kept back, slept on it. It is to make sure that the communication in which we are executing will make sure that the farmer is ready to do what he needs to do to protect his livestock. And I commit myself to that.
That's not what you said earlier.
Mr. Chairman, I have not vacated that position. Let me explain. Don't take it too literally. I think that is the problem.
That's what you say.
What I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is this. I said, and I repeat, nobody is going to be forced. You cannot go and force a farmer with a gun or whatever it is to go there and tell a farmer, you must absolutely vaccinate this cow or else I'm going to take you to a police station. That is not the way to approach the issue. The choice that I have created, Mr. Chairman, is a choice where you are saying, listen, there is no force of vaccinating your cow. However, if you don't want us to vaccinate it, we can leave it. However, these are the problems that you are going to incur. And that is why I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, nobody with the proper communication is going to make that choice. What you cannot do is go there at gunpoint and tell somebody. You can imagine the kind of fighting you might have with some people with pangas and so on if you try that system. So all I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, and don't take it too literally, is that we will give people a choice, but we will make sure that they make the right decision. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes, on the issue of the East African situation, it's a challenging one, Mheshimiwa Mule, because we have got the East African Protocol, which has given us certain conditions. We have got the COMESA Protocol, which has also given certain conditions. And the only way for us...
He didn't answer the second part of my question,
which is
on the issue of ASAL.
The ASALs.
Yes.
I think I had spoken a little bit about that issue of food security and the issue of ASAL region. But let me just quickly wrap what I had said. I had said that we need a huge infusion of our research organizations in those areas, particularly the arid and semi-arid areas, because the farming in the area we have got to bring products that are conducive to the climate. The climate won't change. So it is our climate, it is our products that must change to suit the climate. If it is the question of damming, and I said earlier that I would work with the Ministry of Irrigation, the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, to ensure that we are doing more dams than we are. Some county governments have done a fantastic job in terms of creating water ponds, for example, that can be used both for crop as well as livestock support. But I think there is more to be done, and I think that I will work with the county governments that are in place and see where the support that we can give in terms of creating these disease-resistant crops, drought-resistant crops. And I think I'd spoken to that issue a little bit earlier. And you are right. If we don't, the semi-arid area has to be in the future the main farming area, because it is a larger part of Kenya. But we also have seen countries in the world that are within very dry areas making huge production. I mean, Egypt, we have got Israel, we have got countries around us that we can copy. Australia and so on. So we can do it. It's a question of the political will and the time to do it.
Farmers are suffering.
Nominee?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My understanding, Mheshimiwa, is that, and this is something that I had consulted even with my predecessor on the matter, is that the Munyi-led team has done a substantial amount of work in terms of reducing the quantity that was there lying at the port. I understand there was almost 100,000 metric tons, and right now they are probably talking about some 20 to 30 remaining. That's my understanding from where I sit. So because of the changes that they made in terms of the fixing or the removal of the fixing of the prices, I think the situation is easing away. But this is something I can only talk about from what I have been informed. This is something I need to be there to see. But I'm aware of it. I am aware. I have been looking privately on my own about what is going on in there. I happen to know the committee people as well, so I'll make sure that I get involved as much as I can. I do not wish to give a week or two, because I don't know the intricacies of the issue, but I can guarantee you that I'm going to get into the thick of it as quickly as I can. On the issue of horticultural farming and stringent international standards, yes, it is true that we are facing stringent international standards, but I think the horticultural sector is faced with both local and international hostilities that we can deal with. For example, the exports. On the export side, that's one of the areas that I know they have been complaining about. It has been there, is common knowledge in the newspapers, talking about the many small taxes and deductions and all these things that they have to do. And that's what I refer to as supporting. We need to support them, remove some of those things, export more, and then you can tax on the income taxes, and you recover your money through the volumes, not through the initial prohibitive taxes. And of course, on the issue of the international trading space, within the World Trade Organization and other organizations, I think that working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and of course Trade is a question of ensuring that the conditions that we are getting from particularly the European Union, because that is where most of these products are going, and also diversifying our market so that we don't depend only on Europe. I think there are various other markets that we have not critically looked at that we can to make sure that we become competitive. Part of the reason why our competitors can fix us and give us stringent measures is because they know you don't have a choice. But when they know that you have a choice and you can deny them those beans, they will listen to what you are saying. Thank you, sir. I think I'll start with the last one. To say that, Mr. Chairman, as an elected member of parliament and as a parliamentarians in public service, all you do, and I'm sure the honorable members around me will agree, is give and give and give. I think that is something that we can all agree in this house. Every single day. You are giving back every single day of your life when you work for the public, and you do so legitimately and honestly. All you are doing is giving back to the community. And I do give back, and I think I have something to give back. And it is the public also that has created us, has created me through the education, through the jobs I have had. It is the public, so we do need to give back. But I put it to the questioner that we do it every single day. Mr. Chairman, on the issue of promoting the feedlot, to the question that the honorable member had asked about the dry areas. Mm-hmm. The feedlot is one of the key solutions to that issue, because syrages, hay storages, these are some of the measures that we have to be able to take in order for us to have that storage, warehousing those things, so that during a dry season we have got at least some measure of mitigation before the rains come again. And as I said, this is something that we need to work with the county governments. Even as we talk about food security for the human beings, we also ought to talk about food security for livestock, because livestock is also part of food security. So if we had that issue of feedlot, and we say to ourselves as county governments, backed by the national government, that anytime there is, like now, when the hay is available all over the country, let's make sure that we stock up enough for a rainy day, even as we stock up, for the people who own the livestock, because sometimes their livelihoods depend are the same. On the issue of diverse food products, yes, I agree that it is time to look at even going back to some traditional crops like sorghum that we used to grow, millet that we used to have. But this is happening almost automatically because the current consumer is also becoming very aware and health conscious. So that 10 years ago, there was very little demand for millet and soya and so on. Today, that is something that is growing, and if you go to the supermarkets, it's happening. But we must also remember that urbanization and lifestyle changes are also going to create different demands that have not been there. For example, rice, the demand for rice is the fastest growing in the country. Why? Because of lifestyles, because people in urban areas can cook rice a lot faster, that they can cook other foodstuffs. So we have got to adjust the farming issues in a holistic way. We have got to look at farming holistically, relating it to changing lifestyles and changing needs and consumer behavior in the country. Mr. Chairman, my net worth currently would be around 800. I want to get the exact figure. 800 and about 842 million shillings. Made up of essentially my wealth is in assets, is in real estate, is in pieces of land here and there accumulated over many years.
Have you ever been convicted?
No, sir, I have never been convicted.
Of a criminal offense in a court of law?
No, sir, not once.
Have you ever been adversely mentioned in a parliamentary committee?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
Do you hold an office in a political party?
No, I do not.
Have you ever been dismissed from office or removed from office on account of contravention of Article 75 of the Constitution?
No, sir.
Have you ever been associated with the practices that depict bias, favoritism, tribalism, nepotism in the discharge of public duty?
No, sir.
I'll now give you 2 minutes to make your concluding remarks to this committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the committee for a very engaging debate on this matter. And I want to assure the committee that going forward, I look forward to working with you, collaborating with you in this House, because half of the work that we are going to do, or a fair percentage of the work that we do, is cooperating with the members of the National Assembly and members of the Senate. I want to assure you that some of the issues that we have raised are issues that we are going to look at, we are going to study, we are going to execute. I have no intentions of wasting 2 years. That is a period that I have, and I will do my utmost not only to set the ministry on the right path, but also to address some of the challenges that have been bedeviling the ministry over a long period of time. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.